Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me on this Monday, August 21st. We have a lot to cover today. So many things happened last week with regard to the cases and the hearings and the arrests and the indictments on all of the cases that we have been following. So I thought today would be a great day to catch up on some things that happened last week, especially the Kohberger motions hearing that happened on Friday. So we're just going to dive right in. We'll get to all the hellos later. And thank you to the mods. And please be nice to each other in the chat. Keep it classy. Otherwise, you'll be deleted, blocked, maybe go into a timeout. You don't want any of that to happen. For those of you who are joining me for the first time today, I'm Melanie Little. I come to you with 30 years experience as a trial lawyer in New York State and federal courts. I'm also a legal analyst and commentator, YouTuber, and I'm also a mother of 5. So I come to you with all of those perspectives. I'm not going to sit here and just give you some boring AI voice with a photo montage. If that's the kind of thing you want to watch and that's the kind of thing you're interested in, then you might want to change the channel, because that's not what you're going to get from me. You're going to get the straight truth. All right, here we go. On Friday, in Latah County, Idaho, there was a 7-hour court proceeding on Kohberger. Some of the YouTubers that I'm sure that some of you follow went live, and they covered the hearings for hours and hours and hours. They were not broadcast live, so they had a court TV camera in the courtroom. I think the court TV camera was banned at some point because they were zooming in on Kohberger, which was one of the rules of the things they were not allowed to do. So some of the YouTubers that I just took a look at, and I don't like to look at what other lawyers are talking about on YouTube because I want to have my own opinions. I don't want to be influenced by what anybody else says. So but I did watch the very beginning of one, and her feed was kind of cut off, and she missed what I consider to be the most important part of this hearing on Friday. And through no fault of her own, that was, Court TV's feed. So I had to go somewhere else to find the feed, which I did. Another thing that was annoying is that the Court TV feed was so terrible that it was literally painful to listen to. There was so much static and noise. And we're going to look at another video today where there's somebody who's like really heavy breathing in the background, and it's really kind of creepy, but we're going to get to that. That's on a different case. I think that is on the Shanna Gardner case. So let's dive into Brian Kohberger right now. I did start with watching the Court TV feed, and this is what I saw. And if you were watching it on Court TV, this is what you saw too.
This is State of Idaho versus Brian C. Kohberger. We have several motions set for today.
Your Honor, in our third motion to compel, we had a section called Standard Lab Discovery. They have provided full discovery for the sheet, the DNA found on the night sheet, but not the other 3.
Your Honor, we didn't realize this was going to be an issue today. We have given evidence, everything that we received from the lab. We can't do something that doesn't exist. They're hoping that there's something else there that's not there.
And welcome back to this special hour of coverage of the widower murder retrial. I'm Kelly Craft. Accused quadruple murderer Brian Kohberger was back in court today. This was for a motions hearing ahead of his October trial. According to our producer in the courtroom, Anna Armez, Kohberger walked into the courtroom, half smiled at the jury, then he took...
Stop. I couldn't even watch it past this. He half smiled at the jury. There's no jury. This case is not on trial. This is a motions hearing. There was no jury. And at the beginning of this coverage, she says she's talking about the widower trial, but she's not. She's talking about Kohberger. So forget it. I just had to turn this off. So, I mean, I hate to, speak poorly of anybody, but this coverage was crap. I couldn't even watch it. I had to turn it off. Goodbye. We're not going to watch it either. So now we're going to watch some actual coverage of what the actual hearing looked like. First, I want to show you one of the things that they were arguing. Okay. And they were arguing the defendant's third motion to compel. And this is what I found to be the most important part of this hearing. And there's really nobody talking about it. So sometimes when I feel like I find something and nobody's really talking about it, am I in the twilight zone? Is this not important? Is it like so important that people are just glossing over it because they don't want to cause any controversy? To me, this was a big problem. It is a big problem. And I'm going to show you. All right. So this is Ann Taylor's declaration. Oh, well, it would be good if I shared my screen with you. Hang on one second. All right, here we go. This is Ann Taylor's declaration in support of her third motion to compel discovery. When an attorney files a declaration, in New York, we call it an affidavit. A lot of states call it a declaration. The attorney is swearing that what she is saying in her declaration is the truth. As an attorney, you are a sworn officer of the court, and anything that you say in your declaration or your affidavit better be the truth. So this is their third motion to compel. And you may recall that we've talked a lot about them having trouble getting discovery, asking for things, not getting them. So when you are not getting the things that you think you're entitled to, you have to make a motion before the court. So this third motion to compel, and I didn't highlight it because I didn't have time, but let's just go to number 2. This is where she says they have not responded to defendant's third supplemental request for discovery. She says, she swears, Ann Taylor, the state filed a specific response to that request. After reviewing the materials provided, the following remains to be discovered. Request number A. Request 3 profiles uploaded to a DNA database. The state has provided information related to this request for the seized item, the knife sheath only. The defense has requested all DNA profiles, including 3 additional unidentified male DNA profiles developed during the course of law enforcement investigation. This information has not been supplied. Tell me in the comments, do you think that that's a problem? Do you think that if they have 3 other male DNA profiles regarding this case that could point to 3 other people that were in the location in the house, that the profiles of those DNA results should be provided to the defense? If this was your son or your brother or your grandson who was on trial facing the death penalty, would this be something important that you think that they should provide? Okay, my bet they said they were not suspects. How do you know they're not suspects if the DNA wasn't tested? We're going to go on because we're going to see what the court says about this. And again, it's like I almost feel like I'm in the twilight zone. So this is Judge. This is the hearing. And this is when Ann Taylor is saying to the judge, I didn't get these DNA profiles of these 3 unidentified males. Okay, here we go. Tell me if you can hear it, or if you can't hear it, I'll repeat what he says.
Testimony. Now, if you get too far into this is what the law requires. Okay.
Thank you.
So call your first witness.
Your Honor, I made one point of clarification. It occurred to me while listening to the court talking about genetic genealogy and really that being a focus. There are a couple of other areas contained in the motion to compel that have to do with the other DNA that the state doesn't have complete discoveries to us that are included in that third motion to compel that are up for today. The big focus has been the genetic genealogy piece, but I wanted to make sure that that was still in the scope.
The closed captioning is so bad, and there's so many words that are incorrect, but we're going to do the best we can. Can you guys hear it okay? Can you guys hear it okay? All right. I'm going to correct any closed captioning because some of you, I'm sure, are just listening to this and not watching it. So if it's hard to hear, let me know. Yeah, Jakey, it does sound mumbled to me too. Well, Ann Taylor, first of all, is wearing a mask because she has strep throat. And so she is muffled anyway, but also the audio in the courtroom was absolutely terrible, horrifying. Not horrifying, but it was not listenable, let's say. All right, here we go. She's asking now, like, where are these 3 male DNA profiles? They have not turned them over. All they turned over to me was the DNA profile that was found in the knife sheath.
Well, my understanding was that the state did provide all the information about the laboratory, let's say the laboratory DNA that analysis was not related to the genealogy DNA. Am I mistaken about that? What are you saying that they didn't provide to you?
Your Honor,
So already I have a problem with the judge because he doesn't even understand what she's asking for. And he's saying, well, they're telling you that they already provided you with everything that the lab had. So I don't really understand what it is that you're looking for here.
our third motion to compel, we had a section called standard.
So it says in our third motion, Mrs. Health. No, it's in our third motion to compel. We had a section called standard
Lab discovery, and that has to do with other DNA profiles found at the scene. They have provided full discovery for the sheep, the DNA found on the neck.
They have provided full discovery for the sheep. It says not the sheep, it's the sheath.
Sheet, but not
The DNA found on the night sheet. So on a night sheet, it's a knife sheath.
the other 3 unidentified male DNA samples, 2 from within the house, 1 from outside of the house.
Okay. So she's saying they did not turn over the profiles from the 3 male DNA samples, 2 from within the house and 1 from outside the house.
All right. So if I'm understanding your question there, or your assertion that we're talking about 3 potential analysis of DNA that was not provided to you, but that has no connection to Mr. Kohberger.
That has no connection to Mr. Kohberger. No, but could we agree that it may have a connection to this case? I don't know. Just a thought.
Any response?
Yeah,
Okay. And this is where Bill Thompson's going to get a little annoyed, just a little annoyed.
we didn't realize this was going to be an issue today. We had given,
Your Honor, we didn't realize this was going to be an issue today, which is another way of saying I'm not prepared to argue this right now because we didn't realize it was going to be an issue today. But you should have realized it was going to be an issue today because it's like paragraph B of the motion that says you didn't turn this over. I don't understand. I don't understand why he doesn't understand that it was going to be discussed today, but let's hear what else he has to say.
in defense, everything that we received from the lab. They've asked for DNA workups on other people. To the extent that they don't have them, they weren't done.
They've asked for DNA workups on other people. To the extent that they don't have them, they weren't done. They weren't done. They did not profile the 3 male DNA samples that they had, 2 from inside the house, 1 from outside the house. How did they know they were male? How did they know that they're male samples if they didn't test them? Why wouldn't you test them? People say this was a house where people were in and out all the time. I would expect that they would find a lot more than 3. If they found 150, okay. Yeah, somebody says they didn't match the sheath. Okay, they didn't match the sheath. Does that still mean that they absolutely were not in the house during the course of these events? are we absolutely positive that if he's guilty, because innocent until proven guilty, that he acted alone? Is there any excuse for not even testing them? I'm sorry, but I see reasonable doubt all over this. And you can disagree with me, and I'm sure that you will, and you can put it in the chat and, go ahead. My bet, I know that you're on the other side. I am not pro-prosecution and I am not pro-defense. I am pro-constitution. And when somebody's life is at stake, you better be turning over every rock and every stone, and you better find out and do the work. And I'm not saying that the law enforcement didn't do their job. Okay. They had him in custody in 7 weeks from the date of these horrific murders. And let's not forget that this case is about the victims, Kaylee, Xana, Ethan, and Madison. It is completely about them. But I'm concerned about a fair trial. So let's see what else Bill Thompson has to say about this.
We can't produce something that doesn't exist. We provide everything. There's one outstanding lab report that relates to the forensic examination by the lab personnel of the crime scene itself. Will be receiving today. That's the only outstanding lab report. Everything else, along with all the notes, is what there is, and it's been provided to the defense. And if they're hoping that there's something else there, it's not there.
They're hoping that there's something else there. It's not there. He's trying to make her look like an idiot for even requesting it. Really? Really?
Taylor?
Well, Your Honor, it's part of our third motion to compel. It's still something that we don't have. We also don't have the unexpected.
She's saying it's still something that we don't have. We don't have it. So why doesn't he respond to her discovery demand instead of giving some of the stuff and thinking maybe she's not going to notice that they didn't give her everything she asked for, putting it in writing that it doesn't exist. We did not test those samples. Put it in writing. Instead, he's getting up in court and saying, oh, we didn't know this was going to be an issue today. So I don't really know what to say, except for we can't give you something that we don't have. I'm in the twilight zone. And then she kind of just goes on. She says, we don't have the unexpected corrective actions, unexpected results. From the forensics lab.
Before and the 6 months after November 13th, 2022. We did get some, but it's a narrow scope, and we asked for the full year, 6 months before and 6 months after. That's also in our motion.
I understand your responsibility is to turn over every rock, but you can't get things that don't exist as well. So, I mean, there has to be some.
Again, I'm in the twilight zone. I understand that you want to turn over every rock, but you just can't get stuff that doesn't exist. Okay. We see what side he's on already. I mean, that's just, he should direct them to respond in writing to her that it was never done, that it doesn't exist.
Level of trust in discovery.
There has to be some level of trust in discovery. So you should just, when he tells you that he's given you everything, you should just believe him.
All sworn attorneys. And so Mr. Thompson is saying that there's one more lab report that is coming your way today, I heard him say.
Maybe not today. We were waiting to receive it so that we can process it for discovery. It's supposed to be in any time.
Okay, I misunderstood that. So it's coming soon. It has to come soon because we're 6 weeks away from the trial. So we're going to be very rushed about a lot of things, but I'm going to talk about that a little more later too. So what about the other claim, Mr. Thompson? Do you want to address that? The other mistakes?
Corrective action log, unexpected.
The judge says, what about the other mistakes? And Ann Taylor has the class enough to correct him and say, oh, no, we're talking about corrective actions or unexpected results.
We have that in part
log. But she says she has the first part, but she's asking for 6
I
months
don't
before and
know
6 months
what
after.
exists that we haven't received. We provided all the requests to the lab, and they've assured us that they have provided us with everything that they have within the scope of those requests. I'm not sure what else to say. I mean, we can make a supplemental inquiry to clarify that after we finish in court today. But I'm kind of sitting here saying, Judge, has given me everything we know to exist.
Well, that would be wise to check on that.
We will.
Because
That'd be
we don't
wise
want
to
this
check on that.
Come back on the eve of trial,
Yes, sir.
or 4 years from now at an appeal.
Yes, sir.
So
Yeah, the judge is already thinking about appeal. We don't want this to come back on the eve of trial, or 4 years from now on an appeal. So maybe you better go check with the lab again.
we want to make sure that we have combed through all the information that has any bearing or argument of bearing on this case. That's how
Ms. James is making a note right now. We'll send the inquiry out later today.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Your Honor, just for transparency,
Okay, so tell me what you think about that. I don't know. I think I'm in the twilight zone, but you tell me what you think. I thought that it was Thompson was a little dismissive, and I thought the judge was a little like, well, guys got to trust each other. I mean, you're both sworn attorneys, so we're going to everything that you say and do, we're going to have to trust. You're going to have to trust him that he's giving you everything that he has, and he's going to check with the lab again to make sure. How about you send somebody from your office down to the lab to inspect the records to just make sure that they've given you everything that they have, because it's your lab. Just go down there and have someone inspect the records just to make sure, because you want to put this guy to death if he's found guilty. So maybe we ought to make sure that we're really giving them everything they've asked for and everything that they are entitled to. So let's take a little look here at the comments. Marshall says, I would be so upset as a family member, feeling confused and already questioning the integrity of it all. That's how I feel too. And I'm not saying whether or I think he's guilty or not. And that is not what this is about. This is about a fair trial and whether they are getting all of the information that they are entitled to have. Eddie says, I lost my temper, so I took a knife and cut the tag off the mattress that said, do not remove under penalty of law. I know sometimes we have to make jokes and we have to, make light of these things. And I try and put a little humor into this show too, because, sometimes we need to do that. The topics that we cover here when we're doing true crime are heavy and they can really weigh on people. So we're not in any way thinking this is funny. Peter Pranzo, who is retired law enforcement, if the DNA came back to other males, known, unknown, were they investigated? Right. That's what we want to know. Why did they stop at Kohberger? Okay, because it was his touch DNA on the knife sheath. Okay, I'm gonna submit this to you. I'm gonna submit to you that touch DNA is transfer DNA, correct? You can't use it as a shield and a sword. So if we're going to look at a case like Hurman, where his wife's hair was found on 3 of the victims' dead bodies, and we're going to dismiss that as just transfer evidence. She couldn't have been involved in it. It was her hair, yeah, but it must have gotten there a different way. Why can't the same be said for the sheath? And I'm just saying we can't use it as a sword and a shield. Now, some of the other things they were talking about, the genetic genealogy, the investigative IgG, investigative genetic genealogy. And their argument is, we need to know the methods. We need to know how you got to these results. We need to know how you got, what are the steps that you took to get to Kohberger's father, to get to Kohberger, building out this tree. And I'm not a genealogy expert, I'm not a DNA expert, and I don't pretend to be. CeCe Moore is the expert on genetic genealogy. She's pretty much the pioneer in the field. If you want to learn more about it, you can watch Duty Ron and I think Police Off the Cuff both did very, very extensive shows on genetic genealogy with CeCe Moore. If they're going to build out, why didn't they build out a tree for the 3 other samples? The woman testified, or somebody said that it only took 14 hours for them to build out that tree. Why did they not build out a tree for the other 3 samples and investigate those other 3 potential suspects? And then at least they could say, well, we did investigate them. We matched their DNA. We know who they are. They have alibis. They weren't there, whatever. But they can't say that. All they can say is, we gave her everything. We just didn't do it. To the extent that she doesn't have it, we didn't do it. And I don't want to throw shade on the Moscow Police Department, but they've got a history of hiding evidence. And you don't need to take it from me. You can look it up. There's a thing called Stickergate where they suppressed some body cam footage on some kids that were arrested. It's in there. They have a history. So when he says, you just got to trust them, you just got to trust that they gave you everything, it's a problem for me. And it should be a problem for everyone, whether or not you think he's guilty, because now we're talking about constitutional rights. And here's another thing. People are saying, well, what does it matter how they got to his father or how they got to him? Because when they did the buccal swab, the cheek swab, and I don't know if it's buccal or buccal, people say buccal, people say buccal, whatever it is, the cheek swab, it was a match, or 99.999. It matters. The process matters. The way they got there matters. It has to be done legally. And there was a witness who testified during these hearings that sometimes, and I'm not saying that they did that, but there is a way for law enforcement to backdoor these companies like Ancestry.com, 23andMe, which do not allow law enforcement searches. There's a way for them to backdoor it by submitting the DNA as if they were a person looking for relatives and get matches that way. So it's something that we call in the law the fruits of the poisonous tree. For example, if you get pulled over in your car for a broken taillight, the police officer is not allowed to search your car without probable cause that he suspects that there's something in your car. So if you get pulled over for a broken taillight, and he says, and you see this on Cops, anybody who's ever watched any old episodes of Cops, they're always like, get out of the car. I'm going to search. Do I have consent to search your car? Don't ever give anybody consent to search your car, by the way. If they find a gun in your trunk, and it is later decided that that was an illegal search and seizure because they were not allowed to search your car in the first place, the gun's not coming into evidence because it was not found legally. And that's a violation of the defendant's Fourth Amendment rights. So you got to be very careful here with this stuff. And genetic genealogy is a new field. It's only been around for about 5 years. I saw CeCe Moore on a show last night where she says, but it's been successful in 800 cases. That's great. I don't know how many death penalty cases it's been successful in. My kids, I have 5 kids. When they take a math test, they have to show their work. And if they don't show their work, they get points off. So should they have to show their work? Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. Now, let me go back. There was one good part of that video on Court TV that was unwatchable, and we are just going to go to an attorney that they brought in to talk about the DNA situation. So let's just go back to that for a second.
Throughout these hearings, we have trial and civil attorney Dante Mills. Hi, Dante. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. So, Dante, we're listening to Stephen Mercer. He's a criminal defense attorney and specializes in DNA analysis. And one of the things that he is talking about there, I mean, that's a challenge for the defense when you can't even determine what experts that you're going to want to use to put on your case because you don't have all of the information. What do you think?
Well, let me tell you, DNA evidence has a lot of holes in it. And as of right now, from what we know, this knife sheath with DNA was the only thing that ties Kohberger to these killings. That's the only thing that places him at the scene. And when you want to prove murder, you have to show that the defendant was actually there where the murders happened. So of course the defense is going to attack this DNA connection because from what we know, that's the only connection. And DNA has problems. The first problem is it can't tell time, so it can't say when.
Here's another problem. They keep showing, and the media is really, they've already convicted this guy. But they keep showing this knife. They have never recovered the murder weapon. This is not the knife. And you'll see in little tiny letters up here, it says, not actual evidence. Okay, I'm seeing pictures of this knife with the sheath everywhere. It's not the knife. Maybe it's an exemplar knife, but it's not the knife. We don't have a murder weapon.
The DNA got on that knife sheath, or when was the last time he touched it, if in fact he did. The second issue is with DNA, it doesn't connect someone directly, it just rules out other people. So it says that he could be a potential match. And what the defense is saying is, what test did you use to determine the factors that matched him? Because remember, there's an additional layer. They initially determined that it matched his father because of DNA that his father submitted through one of those programs like Ancestry.com. And then once they saw that it was a match with his father, they saw that it was a match with a relative of his father, which is Kohberger, would have been his father's son. So we have a separate connection on the DNA. It's not a direct match to Kohberger, it's a match to his father, and then shows that it could match his relative. So the defense is saying, show us how that match was made. If you can't show us how you made that match, you shouldn't be able to use this DNA. And if they can't use that DNA, that's a big problem for the prosecution.
It's a huge problem for the prosecution. I mean, Dante, you made some excellent points here. I mean, talking about DNA can't tell time. There have been reports that this house where the 4 victims were and lived, that it was a big party house. A lot of people would go there all the time. So who knows when that DNA could have gotten on that knife sheath? I mean, I don't know. There seems to be a lot of problems.
It is. And one of the things with DNA, there's 2 types that you can have. You can have direct DNA or transfer DNA. So if you talk about this being a party house, if someone who came into contact with Kohberger either sat in his car or maybe went to his house, then went to that party, they could have transferred his DNA to that sheath. There's no way to know that. There's no way to know if someone touches something directly or if something they touched is touched by someone else, and then that someone else touches it and transfers their DNA onto it. So I'm telling you, we got to watch out for this. DNA is not a lock. I've beaten a lot of cases as a criminal defense attorney where DNA was the only connection to the defendant and the crime scene because there's a lot of holes. You generally need other things, and then that DNA is the icing on the cake. They say, oh, somebody saw him there, or somebody witnessed him walking in or out, and we have his DNA. There's no other connection right now. We only have the DNA. So, it may be a problem.
All right, Dante, thank you so much.
This is the state of Idaho.
Okay, so there's that. I actually was so impressed with Dante Mills that I reached out to him, and I think he is going to agree to come on the show at some point this week. I like him a lot. That's the first time I've ever seen him on TV. I think he's very well spoken. I think he explains things great. Oh, and look at right now, he's texting me. I could talk now, but I'm on the air. That's hilarious. Okay, so we're going to try and get him on the show, and let me know if you'd like to hear from him. I know that I would. Okay, so in addition to everything that's gone on here, let me just take a look at some of the comments right now. Iris says law enforcement probably used a genealogy company that bars them from using it, and it's why prosecution is not showing its work. Yeah, that's my guess too. But that could be a problem because if they didn't obtain it in a legal way, it could be tossed. And if it's tossed, that's a problem. Crafty Chris, I laughed when another creator said Santa Claus prosecutor isn't having any of it. Yeah, that's true. He does look like Santa Claus, doesn't he? Linda Vergata, yes, show the work, the proof. Linda, are you related to Karen Vergata by any chance? I did a whole show about Karen Vergata. If you are, please reach out to me because I would love to do a tribute show to her. Aaron Cross says, sure, they should have shown their work. Trust but verify. Right. I mean, I think that in a case like this, you got to cross every T and dot every I. Oblivious Benson is here. Happy birthday, Oblivious Benson. Also, she has posted 2 new videos, I think, on her website. I mean, on her YouTube channel. So go check them out. All about open source internet searching, finding stuff. We did a show together that was really good. So hopefully I'm going to get her to come back. But now that she has her own channel, maybe she's not going to want to come back. Genetic genealogy is super reliable, but it involves hunting public information on private sites to get to the person oftentimes. So that sets a wonky precedent, in my opinion. Agreed. Audrey Cakes, I feel sick the way the state and the judge are treating the Constitution and belittling Anne. Yeah, I do too. I do too. And she didn't, I give her a lot of credit for sitting there and not getting angry. And actually, I mean, I'm angrier than she was. But she sat there and she took it. Maybe she wasn't feeling so good with her strep throat. Mel, I love your spunk so much. Thanks, Wendy. That's one of the more kind words to call it, a spunk. All right, let's see what Nicolo Diaz. Chain of custody sample sources are not verified from actual person who submitted it. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but they should be, right? I mean, chain of custody is very important. You need to know how the DNA got from place to place in order to show that it was handled properly. It's a big thing. Something else that I wanted to show you was a tweet from, I guess a girl who is either a producer or a reporter on Court TV. So I'm going to show this to you. It's got a video. She was at the courthouse. And we're going to take a look at this video. The tweets, this is about the family of the victims coming to the courthouse. There's not really any sound to it. It's just the family walking in, family of the victims. Kaylee Gonzalez's relative is wearing a shirt there. We're going to show you a close-up of what her shirt says.
We're optimistic.
And I feel horribly for them. She's a member of Kaylee's family with the shirt. The ATS News put a community post up today, and I asked her if I could share it with you because I think she put it well. And it says the following. I'm going to show it to you. ATS News says, this was on Kaylee Gonzalez's family Facebook page. References the shirt the aunt wore to court the other day. Does anyone know what media source said they were taunting with this shirt? Yeah, that was Court TV, like I just showed you the tweet. I'll keep looking too. I'll be live soon to talk about Idaho. Brian Kohberger, see you all soon. Click the picture for the, okay. And then this is what the Gonzalez family said about the shirt. They said, since the media labeled this as taunting, just a little inside view, maybe this might make you chuckle like it did for us. And they made a meme of her wearing this shirt. The shirt says, justice, hashtag justice for Kaylee, Idaho House Bill, I think that says 186, shots fired. And that was the bill to reinstate the firing squad in Idaho. And it says, damn, it feels good to be a gangster. I'm not sure why that shirt was allowed to be worn in the courtroom. I understand that there was not a jury there, but the judge was there. I'm not saying that the judge could be influenced by outside sources or the family's wishes, but this picture's all over the internet now. I also know that during the West trial, the trial of Trezell and Jacqueline West, which I covered with Duty Ron about Classic and Sincere, who were murdered by their parents, adoptive parents, Jacqueline and Trezell. They were convicted of their murders. Bodies have never been found. Tragic, tragic case. They still have not been sentenced. This case was in Kern County, California. And during the trial, Duty Ron had some of the family members come in and talk on the show. And I believe it was Roe and Quiche. And they wanted to wear shirts of just pictures of the boys, of Classic and Sincere, who were very, very little when they were unalived. I think they were 2 and 4, 3 and 4. And they were not allowed to wear those shirts. And they were just pictures of the boys on their shirts. So, you know, I don't know how this was permitted. Let me know what you think about it. To Samantha, it was inappropriate and they should have known better, in my opinion. I mean, I feel very, very, a lot of empathy and a lot of sympathy for the families. I just don't want to see a fair trial jeopardized. There are some families who have been very vocal about their families wanting the death penalty for Kohberger. And there is one family who said, not only do we not want the death penalty, we're not even coming to the trial. Like we're done with this. We don't want anything more. We want to move on. We want to try and heal. And we do not want to have anything more to do with this. I know everybody handles grief differently. There are many stages of grief, including anger, denial, a lot of stages. Anybody who's been through it knows. Karen says, I thought the shirt was in poor taste, too innocent until proven guilty. Sue Ann Weir, this is a tough one. I believe it was Ann's private investigator that introduced this. Why aren't they testing it? I don't believe she's being transparent. Who? Ann Taylor? I believe law enforcement has advised them that there were 3 samples. That's where they got that from. And I don't think that Ann Taylor's office has the ability to take those DNA samples out of evidence and have them tested. I wish they did, but I don't think they do. Rochella, let's go in with shirts that say he's innocent or witch hunt. Yeah, you know, I mean, that's like, right. So, I mean, anything goes at that point, right? Amy in Boston says they can get a warrant for the software's audit logs. Yeah, who can? The prosecution? Right now, the defense is relying on the prosecution to turn this stuff over. Yeah, I submit to the prosecution that they go down there and look at the records themselves. Don't just say, well, they told us, they gave us everything. Send somebody down there. You have a huge staff. Somebody says free speech shirt. Yeah, it could be, unless it taints a jury pool. Yeah, Scott says poor taste. Understandable, though. I agree. Chris Kraft. Crafty Chris, I truly believe there is other DNA. It was a quad hom, right? There has to be other DNA, right? And I'm surprised there wasn't hundreds of samples. And they also don't say what the source of those samples are. Was it blood? Was it sweat? Was it semen? What was it? Hair? What are the sources of that DNA? And it does say, I believe, in the probable cause affidavit, if we go back to that, and I didn't go through it, I have it pulled up here, but I think some of it was found on the bed. One of the beds. If you're sitting on the jury, would you want to know that? And listen, the people sitting on the jury, there's going to be 12 jurors and some alternates. They're lay people. They're not all, lawyers, scientists, doctors, engineers, people who have a higher maybe comprehension of some of this stuff. There are some internet sleuths and armchair detectives in this chat that have more knowledge than any lay person about DNA evidence and stuff like that. But I think it's going to be really difficult for a jury, all 12 of them, to understand why it wasn't done. It could be a Doxy Glover. Doxy Dog Lover. Wait, are you Fuzzy Doxy with a different name? Did you change your name? Passion is my word for your work. Thank you. Thank you. So that is what I think the most important part of those hearings were. They also heard a motion to delay the trial date, which is now set for October 2nd. The judge did deny that one. He has not ruled on the genetic genealogy issues or the motion to compel that discovery yet. That will probably be a decision that will come out in writing. So we'll see what happens. He seems pretty set on this trial happening October 2nd. A lot of people think it's going to get pushed, but I'm going to sit here and tell you that I think it might go on October 2nd. And here's why. New school year is starting for the University of Idaho. They want this thing done. They want that house gone. There's a lot of pressure, I think, politically to get this trial over with. That's my opinion. Loretta says 3 unknown male DNA. One was from a glove found outside on the ground, found by Chris McDonough. Yeah, it was. I believe there's video of him picking up the glove or putting down the glove or something like that. So let me know what you think in the comments. Just be kind. Don't attack me or any of my guests or each other. And I do like to read your comments, and I do like to respond to them when I have time. So moving on. Oh, Iris just says, yeah, the judge also reserved the decision on whether to dismiss the grand jury indictment or not. My feeling on that is he's not going to dismiss the grand jury indictment. You know, if he goes by the letter of the law, there seems to be some question about whether the grand jury standard was charged properly. The argument is that in the Idaho law, when it was written, it said that the grand jury needs to find the defendant, the probable cause beyond a reasonable doubt, instead of a preponderance of the evidence. So there's some fugazi language in there, and the judge is going to have to rule on that. But I do not think that he's going to dismiss the grand jury indictment. You know, a lot of this stems from the fact that they went ahead and did a grand jury when there was a probable cause hearing scheduled. And another issue is that they don't use grand juries a lot in Idaho. Their go-to indictment method is a probable cause hearing. So, you know, could the law be interpreted in a different way? Maybe. Maybe nobody's ever challenged it before. If anybody here practices law in Idaho, let me know. But from what I understand, it's not often done that way. They don't often use grand juries in Idaho. So moving on to the case of Kouri Richins. You may recall that Kouri Richins is the mother in Utah who wrote a book about teaching her children how to grieve because their father had died. And then soon after she published that book, she was indicted for actually poisoning her husband with fentanyl. And they found some evidence that she bought fentanyl. They found some Google searches that said that she was Googling, what is a lethal dose of fentanyl? What are some luxury prisons in America? This falls into our case category of women unaliving their husbands. And we really could say in Utah, because there seems to be a lot of them that are from Utah. So here's a little update on that case. The state of Utah has decided not to seek the death penalty in her case. This is, I like to go to the local news channels for news like this because I find that they have better coverage for some reason, you know, and it's a national story. They just give it a little blurb, but this I think is the Utah. Yeah, this is ABC4, Utah's first television station.
As Courtney Johns has the day off today. We do begin with breaking news. The state officially not seeking the death penalty for Kouri Richins if she is convicted in the case of her husband's death. Court documents saying the decision was made after carefully consulting with Eric's father and two sisters. Kouri was arrested after Eric Richins was found dead in their home. An autopsy later showing he had 5 times the lethal dose of fentanyl in his system. Now, this is a developing story. We, of course, will have the very latest on this case here on air and always online at abc4.com.
Okay, so that was decided on Friday. So they're not going to seek the death penalty in that case. And it seems like it's because her late husband's family does not want them to. Talk about grace, compassion, kindness. I mean, that's interesting. What do you guys think about that? Everybody's still talking about Kohberger. Yeah, probably because of the kids. True. I agree, Aga. So that's it for Kouri Richins. And now we are on to Shanna Gardner, Shanna Lee Gardner. I did a show on her on, I believe it was Thursday night or Friday night. And a couple of things have broken since then. So on Thursday, you may recall, this is the case of Jared Brightigan, who was a father of 4, who was gunned down in a hit, like mob-style killing in February of 2022, when he had dropped his twins off at his ex-wife's house. He was on his way home when he came across a spare tire in the middle of the road. This was in Jacksonville, Florida. He got out of the car to move the tire, and he was approached by a man with a gun who shot him point blank several times at close range. Eventually, they arrested a man named Henry Tenen, who turned out to be a tenant of Jared Brightigan's ex-wife's current husband, who he shared the twins with. Her name's Shanna Gardner. They indicted Mario Fernandez Saldana, who was the husband of Shanna Gardner at the time. I believe now they are estranged. So Henry Tenen is in prison, accused of, I think, second-degree murder, conspiracy, child abuse. Mario has also been arrested and indicted with first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, some other assorted charges. The same day that Mario Fernandez Saldana was arrested for the murder of Jared Brightigan, Henry Tenen pled guilty. So Henry is now going to roll over on Mario. And on Thursday, the indictment came down for Shanna Gardner for first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, child abuse. Oh, because Jared Brightigan's 2-year-old daughter was in the back seat, strapped into her car seat. So her father was gunned down right in front of her in a plot that was allegedly concocted by his ex-wife, her current husband, and the tenant/handyman of Mario Fernandez. So Shanna Gardner, who comes from a very, very wealthy Utah family, picked up and moved from Florida 2,800 miles away to the state of Washington, to a city called West Richland, Washington. It came out later that her parents had bought her this $1 million home in West Richland, Washington. And when she moved away, it was kind of in the middle of the night in secret. So it should be noted also that Jared Brightigan had remarried a lovely woman named Kirsten, and they also had 2 young daughters. The 2-year-old who was in the back of his car when he was shot dead. And they had also a 7-month-old daughter at the time. Jared and Shanna Gardner shared custody of their 9-year-old twins. They're now 10 years old. And they would go for 1 week to Shanna's house. And then they would come for the next week to Jared and Kirsten's house. So the children were very, very close, the twins, and also the 2 daughters that Kirsten and Jared had together. The children were very close. There are a lot of pictures, you can find them online, of Jared and Kirsten and the 4 children, and it seemed like they just had such a wonderful relationship. I don't know if that drove Shanna to the point of insanity where she needed to unalive Jared, if she's guilty, because innocent until proven guilty. But Kirsten has been very vocal about trying to get the twins to be able to visit her. Apparently, Shanna's family, now that she's been arrested, or actually since Shanna moved, which was, I think, the beginning of the year, the twins have not been allowed to see their step siblings. And it's heartbreaking. I mean, you can watch Kirsten. We watched some footage of her the other day, and she was very, very emotional. She spoke out after the indictment at the press conference. She was so composed. She's only, I think, 30 years old, and so well-spoken. And I don't know how she got through it I was crying harder than she was listening to it. So Shanna was arrested in Washington State, and they are asking for her to be extradited to Florida. Let's watch a little bit, because I want you to see Shanna walking into court for her extradition hearing. Or it's not really an extradition hearing yet, but this is her first court appearance. Here she comes. Yes, Shanna was having an affair. Okay, so when did this happen? So the murder happened in February of 2022, February 16th of 22. Shanna and Jared were married in 2010 at the Mormon temple in Salt Lake City, Utah, which is this enormous temple. Anybody who's ever driven into Salt Lake from the mountains, I used to drive a lot from like Colorado to Utah. Driving into Utah, where you come across it's almost like driving into Oz. You see this enormous, like what was the thing in the Wizard of Oz called? Like a castle, or it's crazy. I mean, it's the centerpiece, I think, of the LDS religion. It is the amazing, beautiful temple. Anyway, that's where they were married in 2010. By 2015, she had filed for divorce because she had an affair with her CrossFit trainer. And she told him she just didn't love him anymore. So it happened in Florida, Jacksonville, Florida. So Shanna has an affair with her CrossFit trainer. She files for divorce. He finds some emails that they were having an affair. And then they go through this contentious custody battle for the twins, fighting over who gets the house, who gets the kids. And this custody battle was still going on at the time of his death. They had both remarried, but this was still going on. She denied having an affair with the personal trainer, but this personal trainer came and gave an interview to some news outlet and said, we really did have an affair. They broke up. She then married this guy, Mario Fernandez Saldana, who's also indicted in the murder of Jared. And they are now estranged. And so she picked up the move to Washington State. So now that she's finally been indicted Friday, which is about 18 months after the murder, and about, I think Mario was indicted maybe in February, maybe 6 months ago, or March. Now that she's in Washington, she has to come before a Washington state judge because they want her to come back to Florida. They want to have her extradited. So that's where we are right now. This happened on Friday. Oh, wait. Here, wait. Yes. No. And check this out. Affair with CrossFit trainer. Some things never change. Yeah. Here's the thing about CrossFit. She had an affair with that trainer. And then she met her husband, Mario, also at CrossFit. What is going on at CrossFit? They're flipping over tires and stuff. I don't know a lot about CrossFit, but I don't know what's going on over there. All right, here we go. Sorry, back to this.
All right. Clinton County Superior Court is now back in session.
Good afternoon again, everyone. All right, so I believe we are here on the matter of Shanna Gardner, is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor. Andrew Wagley on behalf of the defendant. I just put in a notice of appearance, Your Honor.
All right, good afternoon, Mr. Wagley.
Good afternoon.
All right, I do have an advice.
Somebody said in a comment somewhere, and this is my last joke. I'm so glad that her parents were able to hire Bilbo Baggins to be her lawyer.
That I need to go over with your client before we get started. All right, you are being held on a fugitive warrant because it is alleged by complaint that you have committed a felony in the demanding state.
Okay, so she's being held on a fugitive warrant in Washington because she's wanted in another state. That's going to be their reason for keeping her in jail. So let's watch what happens.
A copy of the complaint outlining the charges should be provided to you. You have the right to require that the demanding state secure a governor's warrant for your return to the demanding state. In the event the demanding state does secure a governor's warrant, the governor of Washington will then issue a formal order authorizing your extradition back to the demanding state. You have the right to seek a writ of habeas corpus challenging the constitutionality of your detention. You also have the right to demand court-appointed counsel at public expense to assist you throughout this process, or you may also retain your own attorney at your own expense. The state of Washington may hold you for up to 90 days. The state may hold you for an initial 30-day period, which may be extended by court order for an additional 60 days. During this hold period, you may be entitled to bail on any non-capital case. No other conditions other than bail and your promise to appear for any future court hearings may be imposed by this court. If this court does not receive a formal order from the governor of the state of Washington, then it must release you within 90 calendar days from today's hearing. So, Mr. Wagley, what is your client's intention today?
Your Honor, at this juncture, we do not anticipate waiving extradition. We want to look into the habeas corpus procedure, and we would ask the court to set a hearing down the line so that we may address that.
And is Ms. Ring?
Oh, whoops. Okay, so she's not agreeing to waive extradition, which typically most defendants do. So she's going to fight being extradited back to Florida, and the governor is going to have to issue a warrant to get her back there, which is not going to be a big deal. But in the meantime, she's going to be stuck in jail in Washington state. There's really no reason to fight extradition. It's going to happen. It's really just delaying the inevitable. So the judge then says that they're going to hold her without bail.
All right. So, Ms. Garner, I will indicate that you're being held without bail. Your next appearance will be September 14th at 8:30 a.m. And we'll see you back then. All right. Thank you.
Now, let's watch her walk out of the courtroom because she gives a little smile, which I find to be repulsive.
All right, court will be in recess.
Ha ha ha. I don't know what about this is funny, happy. She walked away without, signing some papers, and then she thought it was funny and came back to sign the papers. This is the video with the heavy breathing. Can you hear it? It's not me heavy breathing. It's the video. And there she goes. Thoughts, concerns. Heidi Cakes. Hi, Heidi Cakes. What's the point in fighting extradition? It will make it look worse. Yep. Just delaying the inevitable. Anne says, how are folks so dumb as to think involving a hitman or woman isn't going to put them at a huge never-ending risk of exposure or blackmail? It doesn't just go away. Even if not immediately discovered. Yeah, you're right. And it took about 5 minutes for them to connect that Henry Tenon with her husband. And then it just took them a little longer to build a case against her. But I wanted to take a look at her indictment because I thought this was very interesting too. I have a copy of her indictment. Okay, I don't know if you can read that, but don't worry because I'm going to read it to you. Okay, so this is the indictment. And what I thought was interesting about this, so the indictment came down from the grand jury. Maybe the date's on the second page, but it was just last week. And it says, count one, Mario Enrique Fernandez Saldana and Shanna Gardner on February 16th, 2022 in the county of Duval in the state of Florida did unlawfully and from a premeditated design affect the death of Jared Bridegan, did then and there kill the said Jared Bridegan, a human being, and during the commission of the aforementioned murder in the first degree did use a weapon contrary to the provisions of sections 782.041A, 775.071 Florida statutes. Now, what I find interesting here in count three, it's count three. Okay, count two, sorry. Mario Enrique Fernandez Saldana on or between November 1 of 2021 and February 16 of 2022. That was the date of the murder. So those are the dates that Mario is accused of or has been indicted for conspiring to commit murder between November 1 of 21 and February 16 of 22, which is the date of death. And Shanna Gardner on or between May 1 of 2015 and March 16 of 2023. So they must have some kind of electronic evidence or some witness that's going to say she has been plotting to have him killed since May 1st of 2015. Thought that was worth pointing out and very interesting to see what more they're going to have against her. So we're going to wait for that trial, but first we got to wait for her to get extradited. Interestingly enough, her arraignment in Florida is supposed to be on September 12th, but she is not having a hearing on the extradition until September 14th. So I am assuming that the arraignment date is going to be adjourned, and we will have to find out what happens with this fugitive of justice. Now, in going back to things that are in poor taste, Shanna's mother is a woman by the name of Shanna Gardner, who started a multi-level marketing company called Stampin' Up, which somebody told me, I thought it was a greeting card and scrapbooking company. It's not. It's like stamps, like inking stamps that you can make greeting cards with, and you can scrapbook with them. This company generates hundreds of millions of dollars a year. So they have a lot of resources. Shelley has a blog. And I'm going to show, I wasn't going to show, I said the other day, she has a blog and I'm not going to show it. But now I'm going to show it because I did a little bit of a deeper dive into it. And what I found may shock you because it shocked me. And I'm not that easy to shock. Oh, come back. February 16th of 2022 was the date that Jared was murdered. On February 16th of 2022, Shelley made a blog post. Our annual Generation 1 and Generation 2, Sterling and I, Sterling is her husband, and our girls and their spouses' trip to Kauai was awesome as usual. How can a trip to Kauai be anything but beautiful and relaxing? Only half of us made this year's trip, so we invited my brother and his wife, my mom and her husband, and John's parents to fill in the bedroom. We enjoyed the views and everything about our time in Kauai. And she's posting on the date of Jared's death all of their beautiful pictures from their trip to Hawaii with everybody smiling. Here's Shanna and Mario. I mean, does Shelley not know that this blog is still up? Could somebody tell Shelley, maybe this is you might want to take this down, Shell. It's in a little bit of poor taste. Did they plan their trip to Kauai so that they would have an alibi to be in Hawaii when Henry Tenen pulled the trigger on Jared? No, he couldn't have. You know why? Because Jared was on his way back from dropping off the twins to Shanna when he was killed. Well, it gets better, guys. It gets better. So on February 25th of 2022, she entitles her blog, Sweet Support. We took the soonest flight we could to be with Shanna and her family after hearing the news of Shanna's ex-husband's unexpected passing. It's been an emotional week, but being in Florida was exactly where we were supposed to be. Sweet messages and gifts of support from family and friends have been consistent. She's got some more happy pictures, people eating ice cream. Okay, your daughter's been indicted for her ex-husband's murder. Shelley, take it down. But wait, there's more. And we only need go to March 21st of 2022. Oh, here it goes. March 24th of 2022. This is 6 weeks after the murder of Jared Bridegan, their daughter's ex-husband and father of their grandchildren. Florida spring break. For spring break, we drove with Shanna and her family to Club Med, Sandpiper Bay, an all-inclusive resort in Florida. It reminded us of a cruise, only on land, and we had so much fun. Liam's favorite activity of the week was jet skiing with his mom. He also spent a lot of time playing on the beach. Abby's favorite thing was being on the trapeze. She did cartwheels, blah, 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 talking about what a wonderful time they had at spring break, while Kirsten and her children are mourning the loss of their dad and the twins' dad. And here's their happy spring break photos. Again, Shanna, Mario. Does anybody else think that this is, I don't know, horrifying? Wow. Just wow. What a wonderful life they have. If I could figure out how to take this down, we could go back to. There's another post where she talks about how they had a memorial service for Jared because Shanna and everyone who knew Shanna. Oh, here it is. March 21st of 22. 6 weeks after Jared's murder. Enormous amounts of love. After Shanna, along with anyone who knew her, was uninvited from Jared's funeral services, Shanna and the twins planned on their own celebration of life. It was so sweet to see the kids surrounded by family and friends as they recalled happy memories of their dad. Just before sunset, we did all kinds of things. We had cookies and we had a celebration. And again, happy family photos. If you go deeper into this blog, there's also still a blog post about Shanna and Jared's wedding and Shanna's bridal shower when she married Jared. So I don't even have words. I don't even have words for this. But yeah, Stephanie, gross. How do you not know? How do you not know that this is still up? Take it down. Jakey, it's sick. Patronus glow, gross. Oh, somebody else used spunk too. It's just me. First time catching Mel live. Love the spunk. Woo! Thanks. Thank you. Thank you for loving it. It's just me. It's just the way I am. Oh, Fuzzy Doxy, that wasn't you before. Obviously, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. No. Yep, I said this too. Total Valo vibes with the LDS connection too. Yeah, here's the other thing. Oblivious Benson. I gotta yes. Oblivious Benson is our favorite Penelope Garcia, and that's a Criminal Minds reference to the hacker in Criminal Minds. But Oblivious Benson and everything that she does is legal. So she teaches us how to go into the Wayback Machine and find stuff. And she says, and if she takes it down, the screenshot that I took has already logged it into Wayback Archive. Good luck with that, Shelley. And then she says, the OSINT is strong with you on this one. This is an unbelievably good find. Yes, a reminder to go to Oblivious Benson's channel and check out her 2 new videos with all kinds of free resources for you to do your own armchair sleuthing. And they're all legal. Just be careful, though. Just be careful. And I'm sure, Kat, you're going to get into that about online safety and, malware and all that kind of stuff. Just be careful. Don't try this at home necessarily, folks. I mean, I don't, because I once had my computer infected by Russian hackers who wanted me to pay $5,000 to get my data back, and it was horrible. Thoughts, concerns? You're funny, Melanie. Lar says that girl never thought she'd get caught. I followed this case in the beginning, and she is a piece of work. Low life. Yep, I started a couple things here. Let's see what they are. Oh yes, Anne says. Oh, we already talked about that. What's the point about fighting extradition? We talked about that. Something in the water at CrossFit. Barbara George says, yep. This is a good one, MP. I see what you did there. Flipping over mattresses from the sounds of it. Yeah, I said flipping over tires. I see what you did there. And now, Kat and I were talking about this the other day. Did you bring up the Thrive supplements yet? I want to see her cabinets. Yeah. So we've been talking about this thing called Thrive, which is a supplement, bodybuilding supplement, I guess, or some sort of health supplement that is another multi-level marketing company where people sell Thrive. And if anybody has any more, information on Thrive, let me know. I'm not really that up to speed on what exactly it is, but I do know that it is people sell it at gyms and CrossFit, and there's patches that are involved. And Chris Watts came out and said that he was using Thrive and patches and the supplements, and that when he was using them, he didn't sleep, and he only used them because, I think his girlfriend was selling them, or his wife was somebody was selling them. And then you may recall that he's the one who unalived his entire family, wife and children, with his bare hands. And Kat and I were talking about whether Shanna may have been into Thrive as well, because she comes from a family that owns a multi-level marketing company. Was she involved in Thrive? Was she wearing patches? Is there something in those patches that can cause some sort of situation mentally? Now, I will say, years ago, I had a case in my law firm for a client. And this was in the very, very beginning of supplement. People started taking supplements and protein powders and things like that. I had a client who took a supplement and he went into a coma after one time of taking the supplement. It was like a shake or something that he drank made it with powder. We sued the company who was the manufacturer of this powder or whatever it was, this supplement. And when we did the depositions of the owner of the company, we found out that he was manufacturing this in his basement by himself. He was not a chemist. He was not a scientist. He didn't know anything about FDA regulations. And at the time, these supplements were not regulated. There were no standards. You didn't have to put the ingredients on the label. It was very, very eye-opening. So, and I believe the ingredient that was in the one that put my client into a coma was called Ma Wang, which is, I don't know where it's like a Chinese herb, I want to say. And these supplements can be dangerous. I'm not saying anything bad about Thrive. I know they like to sue people. They sued some guy who wrote an article who put in his blog that maybe it was dangerous. I'm not saying it's dangerous. I'm saying if there's a connection between Chris Watts taking it and he unaliving his whole family, and maybe Shanna taking it, and she also conspiring to unalive her ex-husband. I'm not trying to give anybody a defense to anything, but I'm just saying that it creates a little bit of something that maybe could be looked into. Supplements can be dangerous as complications, but nothing tops plain old lust and greed as motivators. Yes, I agree. Yes, that's Anne says that. And then love versus money. Vitamins and supplements aren't FDA regulated or required. Yeah. So it's dangerous, guys. Just be careful what you take. Deborah Hillman, I was a seller of Thrive when they first started. It was short-lived, but they shot to the top within 6 to 12 months. It was crazy. Yeah. So did the only Thrive that affected Watts was Nicole Kester and Bell Moon. You guys are good. You guys are getting in there with the one-liners. I like it. Supplements can cause lust. Yeah, I've read that too. And an increase in testosterone and as such, other things like that. So be careful what you put into your bodies, guys. I was taking Fuzzy Doxy. I was taking a med. I knew it started making me feel aggressive. So I told the doctor to stop. So you can tell if your mood is changing, not for the good, and do something about it. Yes. And you know your body better than anyone else. So I tell this to people all the time because part of my practice was handling medical malpractice cases. You know your body better than anyone. So if a doctor tells you there's nothing wrong with you, but you feel like there is, go get another opinion. Doctors aren't God. You know when something's not right with your body. So there's another free legal advice of the day. Get a second opinion and a third opinion because you know your body better than anybody else. Kat says they can sue her. Yeah. They throw off hormones. There's a lot of things that can happen from supplements that are not regulated and people don't know what's causing them. Could be a situation. Okay, we are already into this for almost an hour and a half, so I am going to leave you off on a fun note because we just want to catch up with Kevin Costner, don't we? I did a video on Kevin. I did 2 videos actually on the divorce that Kevin Costner is going through. So I'll just bring you up to speed a little bit on that. But I don't have my dates handy. But Kevin Costner's second wife, Christine Baumgardner, filed for divorce, I believe, in, I want to say, I don't remember what month. I want to say April. And she is citing irreconcilable differences. And that's fine. It's California. It's no fault state. But in her divorce, she signed a prenup before they got married because Kevin didn't want to have any more kids at the time when they got married. And He had already been screwed in his first divorce. He wound up having to pay his wife over $80 million. And he, at the time he divorced his first wife, he was rendered not homeless, but he wasn't allowed to move back into his marital home. So he swore to himself that that was never going to happen to him again. So in his prenup with Christine Baumgartner, he put in the prenup that if either one of them were ever to file for divorce, that any of his homes that were owned by him prior to the marriage, which is the house that the family lived in with their 3 teenage kids, she would have to vacate the home within 30 days. She files for divorce against him. And she digs her heels in. She says, I'm not leaving. And he says, but we have a prenup. You have to move. And she doesn't want to move. And everyone's saying that he's trying to kick his kids out of the house. That's not true. They live in a place called Carpinteria, California, which is gorgeous. It's on the ocean near Montecito, California. It's a very, very, very wealthy area with luxurious homes. They live on a compound there with a couple of houses. And he wanted to get back into the house because he had to start editing his new movie, et cetera, et cetera. She does not want to leave. She says, the prenup should be invalidated, by the way. And also, I want you to pay me $250,000 a month in child support. $250,000 a month in child support. The prenup had precluded her from getting any spousal support or alimony, but he was required to give her $1 million if they got divorced, and plus some other expenditures for her to buy a house and things like that. So she's contesting the validity of the prenup. And there's another clause in the prenup that says that if anybody contests the validity of the prenup and they are found to be wrong because the prenup is valid, then they have to pay the attorney's fees for the other person. So there was a hearing on whether or not she had to move, and the court ruled that she did have to move out of the house by July 31st, which she did. There's been conflicting reports. Some reports say that she moved to another house on the same property. They also owned a property down the street that she may have moved to. But in any event, he is pretty much father of the year because even in the middle of this custody battle, he took his daughter to see Taylor Swift at SoFi Stadium in LA. So he got some credit for that. And then he took his son to the Dallas Cowboys training camp the other day. So he posted both of those things on Twitter, which I had somewhere, but now they are gone. But you can look at his Twitter and you can see that he's, gunning for father of the year. But in any event, on Saturday, the two of them had some depositions. Let's see what we got here. They appeared for depositions in their divorce case on Saturday, which I thought was kind of interesting. Lawyers don't usually work on Saturdays, but I guess if you're billing $1,000 an hour and Kevin Costner is your client. So here they are walking into their depositions. Here's Kevin dressed in white, and here's Christine. The latest thing that they happen to be squabbling about is that Kevin wants to know if she's going to be contesting the prenup. And that's a pretty important thing to want to know because he needs to know how to prepare his defense. Laura Wasser is his attorney. She's a pretty famous celebrity attorney, also known as the Disso Queen, which is a pretty cool moniker. Disso as in dissolution of marriage. And they are fighting over the meaning of the word understood. Apparently, in their request for admissions, Kevin's attorneys asked them to state whether or not Christine understood the terms of the prenup. They were both represented by counsel, so that's not an issue. And Christine's lawyer, here's the question. Laura Wasser says, you understood the legal effect of the premarital agreement before you signed the premarital agreement. They wanted her to admit that. And Christine's lawyer said, objection. This request is vague as to the scope and meaning of the term understood. So I guess they're going to squabble over the meaning understood. Of course, Laura Wasser clapped back with the dictionary definition of understood, but we'll see what happens in that case. I'm following it for you. I have requested some court documents And I am waiting for them to send me a bill so that I can get them, because I don't really like to speak about it unless I have the actual court documents. So I'm kind of going off of, just some photos and what was reported by a couple of different sources. Well, I got to take my cat to the vet. So does anybody else have any other questions or things that we want to talk about or cover? This has been really fun, just hanging out with you guys today on a Monday, talking about things we're all interested in and just trying to get a handle on what's going on out there in the crazy world of law and true crime. Cherry says, I loved your two previous videos on the Costner Wars. Keep following. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you to all my subscribers. And if you're not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Just hit the subscribe button below. Before we leave here, please hit the like button, hit the thumbs up button. It helps the videos to get pushed out into that weird YouTube world. There's some weird algorithm. The more comments you have, the more likes you have, the more it gets recommended to people. So thank you so much to my moderators who are also in the chat, keeping it classy and helping me keep this thing moving, because it's hard to do this by yourself. It's hard to moderate the chat, and it's hard to talk to you and pull up all of these exhibits. And I'm getting better at it, though, wouldn't you say? Because in the beginning, I had a lot of technical difficulties, and I feel like kind of getting a groove. We're kind of getting in the groove of things here. Oh, another funny thing. I went to, two of my kids have been at sleepaway camp for 8 weeks, two of my girls. And so I went to pick them up at the bus. And when the girls all got off the bus, who came from Long Island that went to camp up in New England, one of my daughters came running over. She says, oh, mom, my friends want to meet you because you are their favorite YouTuber and they want a picture with you. And I was like, what? There's 17, 16, 15-year-old girls out there that think I'm their favorite YouTuber. That is like, that's crazy. I mean, my kids have been watching YouTube since they were little. They used to watch people on YouTube playing video games, and I couldn't understand it. Like, why are you watching somebody else play Minecraft or Roblox? Like, I don't even understand that. Like, what are you doing on YouTube all day? But now I do. So thank you to Emma and Julia for, wanting a picture with me. That was pretty cool. And maybe they're not watching today, but if they watch the replay, they will see it. So everybody just keep on keeping on. Have a great week. I am going to try and get Dante Mills on the show. And also, I think Wednesday night, I am going to do a show with Meredith Beardmore, Men with Mayor, about her new book that is coming out that aims to give support to and help spouses, significant others, family members, and children of addicts and alcoholics, because she did not feel like there was a lot of support out there for the family members who were affected, whose lives are upended by the alcoholic and drug addict. And it's a fabulous book, and we want to discuss it. So keep an eye out for that. Thank you for calling me a great role model. I love you all. Thanks for keeping it classy. And I'm going to see you again this week, at least once. Have a great day, everybody.